You know those stories. The ones that start normal, a little boring even, and then take a hard, sharp left turn into total, unbelievable madness? Yeah, this is one of those. My life used to be a Hallmark movie. A little cheesy, a lot of predictable. Then it became a crime documentary. And finally, a Greek tragedy. All in 10 years. I'm Claire, and my first husband, Mark, vanished without a trace for a decade. And when he walked back through my front door, I was having dinner with my second husband, who just so happened to be his brother. Yeah, take a breath. It gets worse. We need to rewind a bit. Mark and Adam. They looked exactly alike, identical twins. But that's where the similarities ended. Mark, my Mark, he was the wildfire. Loud, a little reckless, spontaneous. He'd quit his job to chase a dream of opening a scuba shop in Fiji. He didn't, but he thought about it. He was exciting, you know? Adam was the anchor. Quiet, solid, a computer programmer who liked spreadsheets and clean socks. He was the brother who always showed up on time. The one you called when your car broke down, not the one who broke it in the first place. I married the wildfire, Mark, when I was 25. Adam was his best man, a quiet, steady presence right next to the blaze. I loved Mark completely, or I thought I did. We had 5 years of that volatile, passionate, kind of messy love. The day it happened, it was just Tuesday. Mark and I had a stupid fight over the thermostat. Seriously, the air conditioning was too low. He stormed out of the house. He always did that, stormed out, walked around the block, came back with takeout and a stupid grin. It was his thing. "I need some air, Claire," he grumbled, slamming the door a little harder than usual. I heard his truck start up. It was 4:17 p.m. I remember looking at the clock, thinking, okay, give him 20 minutes. I went to the kitchen, started doing the dishes. I thought about what I'd say when he came back. An apology, probably. It was always me who apologized first. 20 minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. I called his cell, straight to voicemail. Probably left it at home, I thought. He's just being dramatic. Dinner time came. Nothing. 10 o'clock, midnight. I was sitting on the couch, the porch light on, staring out the window like some cliché in a bad movie. By 2 a.m., the panic was a physical thing. It was cold acid in my stomach. This wasn't a walk around the block. This was gone. The next day, I called Adam. He was the first person I called. Not the police, Adam, because he knew Mark best. He was the calm one. He showed up in minutes. His face was pale. We looked through the house together. His wallet was on the dresser. His keys were by the door. His phone was under a cushion. But his truck? Gone. Adam was the one who called the cops. He was the one who filled out the missing person report. He was the one who handled the reporters, the nosy neighbors, the well-meaning friends who kept saying, "I'm sure he'll turn up." They found the truck 3 days later, abandoned in a parking lot 40 miles away near a train station. Empty. No note. Nothing. The police treated it like a runaway husband case. They said he probably just took off. They said it happens all the time. But I knew Mark. He was a lot of things. But he wasn't a coward. He wouldn't just disappear. The first year was a blur of hope and deep, deep despair. Every time the phone rang, my heart would try to claw its way out of my throat. Every time I saw a man with his build, his stride, my vision would blur. Adam, though, Adam was a rock. He didn't just visit, he moved in. Well, not moved in, but he was there all the time, sleeping on the couch, making sure I ate, fixing things Mark had promised to fix a year ago. He never pressured me to talk, he just existed. A silent, steady presence in the chaos. He kept Mark's memory alive, but he also kept me alive. He didn't try to be Mark. Thank goodness. He was just Adam. He'd say, "Mark is coming back, Claire. He has to. We just have to be ready." But deep down, I knew that was a lie. And I think he knew it too. 2 years passed. The police closed the file. Mark was a ghost. Adam was still there. We'd settled into this routine. We were roommates, friends, grieving partners. But the lines were starting to get fuzzy. The way he looked at me sometimes when I was laughing at one of his terrible jokes. The way his hand lingered on my shoulder just a little too long. It was wrong. It felt sacrilegious. He was my brother-in-law. I was married to his twin. One rainy night, we were watching some old movie. He was on the couch, I was in the armchair. It was dark. He got up to get a blanket. He stopped in front of me. Just stood there. He didn't say anything. I didn't either. He just pulled me into this tight, close hug. It wasn't the kind of hug you give a grieving sister-in-law. It was different. It was grounding. It felt like coming home. He pulled back, his hands still on my arms. Our eyes met. "Claire," he whispered, and that was it. It started with a kiss that tasted like guilt and salvation all at once. It was slow, it was respectful. It was also the most inappropriate, complicated thing I had ever done. The immediate aftermath was a mess of whispered apologies and fear. "We can't do this, Adam. This is Mark," I stammered, pulling away. He looked at me with those identical eyes, but his expression was softer, calmer. He said, "I know it's Mark's wife, Claire, but he's gone, Claire. He left us. And I've been here. I've been here every day watching you hurt." And that was the truth. It was a terrible, horrible truth. He hadn't left. He had stayed. And in staying, he had become my new reality. For a year, we kept it a secret. Our parents, their parents, would never understand. They still held on to the hope that Mark would return. But for me, hope had turned into a sick, festering wound, and Adam was the slow, steady healing process. It wasn't a sudden, passionate affair. It was the slow, inevitable shifting of two people leaning on each other until they became one unit. It was built on shared pain and quiet understanding, not on the flash and fire Mark and I had. 4 years after Mark left, I filed the paperwork. Declaration of presumed death. It felt like signing Mark's death certificate all over again. It was official. Mark was legally gone. The guilt was monstrous. It clawed at my insides. Was I rushing this? Was I being disrespectful? But Mark had made his choice 10 years ago. He had chosen to disappear. I had to choose to live. Adam asked me to marry me 6 months later. No grand gestures, no kneeling, just a quiet night in the kitchen while making spaghetti. He said, "Marry me, Claire. Let's just be a family now. The three of us." The three of us. He meant me, him, and the ghost of his twin brother. The wedding was small, quiet. Only his immediate family was there, our parents. They were sad, but RNP. They knew I deserved happiness, and they loved Adam. They saw the calm he brought to my life. I wore a simple white dress. I didn't feel like a bride. I felt like a survivor who had finally found her shelter. We said our vows. I promised forever to a man who, in any other scenario, would be completely off limits. We had a calm, stable, beautiful 6 years of marriage. 10 years from the day Mark left. We bought a new house. We had our routines. We were good. We were happy. 10 years. A full decade. It's a long time. It's long enough for a memory to soften, for pain to fade into a dull ache. Mark was a story I told sometimes, a part of my history.
Adam was my present, my future. I was 38, Adam was 38. We were sitting down for dinner. It was a Friday night. Takeout pizza because we were tired. Adam was talking about some frustrating bug he found in a system. I was listening, nodding, happy in the mundane stability of our life. The doorbell rang. It was 7:15 p.m. "I'll get it," Adam sighed, wiping his hands on a napkin. He walked to the door. I heard the lock click, then the sound of the door opening, and then silence. A thick, heavy, absolute silence that swallowed the whole house. It was a silence I hadn't heard since the day Mark's truck was found abandoned. It was the sound of a world shattering.
I got up, curious. I walked down the hallway. Adam was standing frozen in the entryway. His back was to me. His shoulders were tense, like a statue carved out of pure shock. And standing opposite him, framed in the doorway, was a man. He was thinner. His hair was longer, messier, streaked with gray. His clothes were rumpled, but the eyes, the exact, identical, burning blue eyes, the curve of the mouth, the scar above the left eyebrow from when he fell out of a tree at age 7. It was Mark, my first husband, the man I had declared dead, the man who had been gone for 10 years. He looked past Adam. His eyes found mine. "Claire," he said. His voice was a little rougher, a little deeper, but it was his. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't faint. I just stood there, paralyzed, watching my past and my present collide. Mark looked at Adam. Then he looked at the wedding ring on Adam's hand. Then he looked at Adam's ring on my hand. "Adam," Mark said, his voice flat. "What is going on here?" Adam finally moved. He took a single, unsteady step back, blocking the doorway, putting himself between Mark and me. "Mark," Adam said, his voice a low growl I'd never heard before, "you shouldn't have come back." That was the moment the silence broke. It shattered into a million sharp, loud, angry pieces. Mark pushed past Adam and walked into the living room. He saw the new couch, the pictures of Adam and me on the mantel, the general feeling of Adam that now filled the space that used to be Mark and Claire. He looked at me again. 10 years, Claire? 10 years and you married my brother? You just replaced me with the backup model? The rage hit me then. Not from him, from me. "Replaced you?" I yelled. My voice shook. "You left, Mark. You walked out the door with a fight about the air conditioning. There was no note, no call, no sign. I spent a year waiting by a dead phone, 4 years grieving, 6 years of feeling guilty for filing a death certificate. And now you just show up? What were we supposed to do? Freeze our lives and wait for a ghost?" He flinched. The look of anger turned into something hurt and complicated. Adam stepped in, his hand on my back, steadying me. The simple act of Adam touching me sent a new wave of fury through Mark. "Get your hands off my wife, Adam," Mark hissed. Adam didn't move his hand. "She hasn't been your wife for 10 years, Mark. She's mine now." We sat down. Eventually. It took an hour of screaming, crying, and Adam finally threatening to call the police. We sat in the living room, the 3 of us, in a tense, ridiculous triangle. "Tell us," Adam demanded. "Start from the beginning. Why did you disappear?" Mark sighed. He looked exhausted. 10 years of life had been scraped onto his face. "It was the money," he said, his voice quiet. "I was in debt. Bad debt. Way over my head. Not just credit cards. Loan sharks. The kind of guys who break kneecaps." He explained that he had taken a huge, risky loan to start a business, a stupid idea that failed immediately. The debtors were coming after him. He said he heard a conversation that they were going to come after me next to force him to pay. I had to go, he insisted. I had to disappear so completely that they'd forget I existed. I had to protect you, Claire. If I'd stayed, they would have hurt you, or worse. It sounded dramatic, like a movie plot, and parts of it actually made sense. Mark was bad with money. He was a secret keeper. But 10 years? 10 years, Mark? You couldn't send an email, a postcard, a single coded message to Adam to tell your family you were alive? I couldn't risk it, he argued. Any contact, any trace, and they could track me. I was working off the debt, labor jobs, off the grid, cash only. I cut myself entirely. I was living in a different country for a while. I only came back when I knew for certain the debt was paid and the people were gone. So you just show up, Adam cut in, his arms crossed, his stance protective. And expect what? A parade? You expect Claire to just drop everything and run back to the man who put her through a decade of misery instead of the man who held her hand through it? Mark's eyes narrowed. You were supposed to be watching out for her, Adam, not marrying her. I started noticing things, small things. Mark said he was living in South America, working on fishing boats. He talked about the heat, the humidity. But his skin was pale, too pale for a decade in the tropics. He smelled faintly of cheap cologne and city smoke, not salt and sun. I walked to the kitchen to get water, needing a moment alone. Adam followed me. Don't believe a word of it, Claire. He's lying. He's always been a liar. He looks so sincere, Adam. He seems so exhausted. That's how he is when he wants something, Claire. He disappeared because he was selfish, Claire. He found a good reason to go and took it. Adam was right. Mark had a way of weaving beautiful, complex lies. But Adam was also protecting his territory. He had a lot to lose now. I spent the next 2 days trying to piece together the truth. Mark stayed at a cheap motel. Adam and I fought about it constantly. You need to send him away, Claire, Adam insisted. He forfeited his claim to you the minute he walked out that door. He's trying to disrupt our life. But what if he's telling the truth? What if he really was trying to protect me? Then he's a fool who made the wrong choice. He should have trusted us, trusted me to help him out. We're brothers. That was the line that snapped something in my head. Trusted us, trusted me. Mark's initial anger at Adam was too strong, too immediate. It wasn't just shock at a brother marrying his wife. It was something else, something personal. I decided to talk to Mark alone, away from Adam's nervous energy and watchful gaze. I met Mark at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. You said you had bad debt, I started, skipping the small talk. He took a sip of his coffee. His hands were shaking slightly. Yes, he finally admitted. He was the only one who knew. He tried to help me restructure it. He's the smart one, remember? The responsible one? So Adam knew the exact people you were running from? Yes. And you trusted him to look after me while you were gone. More than anyone. I leaned forward. My heart was pounding. Mark, when you left, you didn't just leave with your truck. You left with the cash from the security deposit account. That account that Adam was the joint signatory on? The one he set up for us? Mark paled. How do you know that? I found the statement right after you left. I didn't know what it meant then. I thought you took the money to start fresh, to run. I did take it to run. That was my only option. But did Adam know you were taking it? Did Adam set up that account specifically so you could have quick access to cash that couldn't be traced? Mark looked down at his coffee. The silence was deafening. He told me to take it.
he finally mumbled. He said it was the only way to be totally clean, to make a new identity. He gave me the name of the guy who could set me up, the guy who dealt with the debt. I felt sick. My husband, Adam, had facilitated the disappearance of his own twin brother. Why would he do that, Mark? Why help you run and then come and comfort me and then marry me? He raised his eyes. They were burning with 10 years of bitterness. I didn't figure it out until about 3 years ago, Claire. The debt wasn't that bad. It was bad, yes, but it wasn't death threat level bad. Adam just made it sound like it was. He exaggerated the danger. He paused, gathering his breath. And the man he sent me to, the guy who supposedly helped me, he wasn't a contact, he was a handler. He took the money Adam gave me, and he basically set me up in a small village, far away, with strict rules about contact. The whole thing was a controlled removal, a decade-long exile. You think he wanted you gone? I whispered. I know it, Mark spat out. He wanted you. He was always there, the steady one, the second choice. But he knew he couldn't fight me for you. So he created a situation where I had to choose, my life or your perceived safety. He made me choose to look like the coward, the deserter. I walked home in a daze. I didn't want to believe it. Mark was desperate.
He was looking for any reason to explain his decade of absence. And Adam was right there, the perfect villain. But the pieces fit too well. Adam's calm confidence during the search, his immediate move-in, his refusal to let me hold on to hope, his instant rage when Mark returned, and his face. When Mark first showed up, Adam's face wasn't shocked. It was horrified. Not because his brother was back, but because his plan had failed. I walked into the house. Adam was on the phone, looking relaxed. He hung up immediately. "Everything okay?" he asked, too casually. "Fine," I replied. I walked past him and into the kitchen. I went straight to the drawer where we kept the junk, old mail, rubber bands, pens. I pulled out a specific file folder, Mark's old financial records. Adam followed me in. "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for the truth, Adam." I pulled out a document, a scanned copy of a contract. It was from the time Mark was facing his debt. It wasn't loan sharks. It was a private investment fund. "This is the loan, right?" I held it up. "The one you said was so dangerous?" Adam's face tightened. Yes, Mark was being dramatic. It wasn't the mafia, but the penalties were severe. He made the right choice to leave. "The penalties were severe," I agreed, pointing to a section. "But Mark's mother, your mother, she had already co-signed a restructuring agreement on this 2 weeks before Mark left. Her name is right here. Your parents paid it all off. They didn't want Mark to know, because they wanted him to take responsibility. But the debt was gone. He was clear." I looked up at Adam. His face was a mask of cold terror. "You knew this, Adam. You were the one who handled the paperwork for them. You were the executor. You had the signed document." Adam opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. The day Mark left, he wasn't running from debt. He was running from you. You told him the debt was worse than ever. You told him they were coming for me. You panicked him, and then you gave him the only solution. Run, take the cash, and disappear forever. And you made sure he didn't know the truth. Adam dropped the casual act. The mask fell away. He looked exactly like Mark in his most intense, angry moments. "He deserved it," Adam yelled, slamming his hand on the counter. The sound echoed in the quiet kitchen. He had you. He had the excitement, the fun, the love. I was the smart one, the loyal one, the one who cleaned up his messes, and you still chose him. His voice broke. I loved you first, Claire. I was the one who saw you first at the college party. I was the one who was too shy to talk to you. And then Mark swooped in, charismatic and loud, and took you. I stood there, right next to him, as his best man wanted to scream. For 5 years, I watched him screw up, watch him take you for granted, watch him be reckless with your feelings. I deserved you more. I would have never left. So you made him, I whispered, tears finally blurring my vision. You used his weakness, his fear, and his stupid need to protect me to get rid of him. You engineered his disappearance, knowing he'd think he was a hero while you stayed behind to play the martyr. It worked, didn't it? Adam's voice was suddenly calm, chillingly so. I gave you stability. I gave you peace. I gave you the life he couldn't. I held your hand through the hell he started. We were happy, Claire. For 6 years, we were the perfect life. It wasn't about Mark anymore. It wasn't about the debt or the 10 years of waiting. It was about Adam, the man I had married, the man I had built a new life with, the man who was a good husband, a kind partner, but also a masterful, cold manipulator who had exiled his own twin brother from my hand. I looked at the wedding ring on my finger. It didn't feel like an anchor anymore. It felt like a chain. I can't look at you, I told him, my voice devoid of emotion. Every good memory, every quiet night, every promise we made, it's all a lie. It's built on a foundation of betrayal and silence. Claire, don't do this, he pleaded. He'll leave again. He's chaos. I'm order. Please, we can fix this. We can just tell Mark to go. We can say he's lying. Who's he gonna tell? We have the stability, the life. You don't understand. I shook my head slowly. I married a man who was honest, even when he was difficult. Now I'm married to a man who was calm, stable, and a masterful strategist of lies. The chaos was easier to live with than this calculated cruelty. Adam left that night. He didn't fight. He knew the game was over. I was left alone in a house that felt too large, too silent, filled with a new kind of despair. I called Mark. I told him the truth. I told him he was free. He was never guilty. He was a pawn. He came over the next morning. He didn't look like a vengeful husband. He looked broken. I don't expect anything, Claire, he said, standing in the doorway. I know you lost me. I know you moved on. I needed you to know the truth for both of us, so I could finally be free. I know the truth, Mark, and I'm the one who needs to be free now. I realized then that in the 10 years he was gone, I had changed. I was no longer the woman who needed a wildfire or an anchor. I needed myself. I didn't run back to Mark. I didn't stay with Adam. I filed for divorce from the man who was legally my husband, and I let go of the ghost of the man who once was. Mark and Adam, the brothers, the twin pillars of my life. One destroyed my life by leaving. The other destroyed my life by staying. But the story doesn't end there, because this whole messed up family has a flair for the dramatic. About a month later, Adam was gone, just like Mark had been 10 years before, not running from debt, just gone. His car, his wallet, a fresh note simply saying, I can't live with the silence. But I heard things. Through family connections, through an old friend of Mark's, Adam didn't just vanish. He was seen leaving town with a new passport using a fake ID. The name on the ID, it wasn't Adam Smith or whatever alias you might expect. It was Mark's real, old, pre-vanishment name. Adam had taken his identity. And Mark, he didn't stay either. He called me once. He was doing okay. He was traveling. He was free. He had finally escaped his brother's shadow. But there was a strange tone to his voice, a calmness I'd never heard from him before. He had learned patience. He had learned how to play the long game. He told me, Adam always wanted my life, Claire. My name, my wife, my home. Let him have my old identity. Let him deal with the confusion, the paperwork, and the ghost of the man he tried to eliminate. I'm starting new, and he's stuck being me. That's when the truly terrifying realization hit me. It was Mark who engineered the second disappearance. It was Mark who had been exiled and forced to learn how to be patient, strategic, and completely cold-blooded. He had returned not just to expose Adam, but to replace him. Mark was back, but he wasn't the same wildfire. He was quiet, calculated, and terrifyingly calm. He had turned the tables on his twin using the exact same strategy: shame, fear, and a forged sense of guilt to drive Adam away. He had walked into my life, caused the destruction, and walked away with a quiet confidence. Adam, the steady anchor, had cracked and run, proving Mark's point that he was the weaker one all along. The brother who returned was not the victim of a decade-long con. He was a survivor who had mastered the art of manipulation. He won. He cleared his name, destroyed his brother's life, and walked away free. I'm still single. I sold the house. I changed my name. My first husband vanished for 10 years, and my second husband was his brother. But the real story? The real story is that neither of them wanted me. They only wanted to win the sibling rivalry, and I was just the prize. And that, folks, is how my life turned into a cautionary story about identical twins and the absolute chaos that is family drama.
I spend a lot of time now thinking about those 10 years. 10 years. That's a quarter of my life. All spent wrapped up in this sick game I didn't even know I was playing. Mark's initial fury, the look in his eyes when he saw my second wedding band, I realize now it wasn't just shock at the betrayal. It was rage at the inconvenience. He had spent 10 years in exile, a decade of his youth, and the prize he had suffered for was already taken. It wasn't my loss he felt. It was the sting of his brother beating him to the finish line. That competitive streak, the twin rivalry, that was the true engine of all this misery. Not love, not debt. Just two grown men still fighting over a toy. And I was the toy. I remember thinking Adam's quiet nature was a sign of maturity. Now I see it was just patience. The lion lying in wait, watching the gazelle. He wasn't incapable of the passion Mark had. He just knew that quiet persistence was a better weapon than fire. He saw his brother's flaws, the pride, the recklessness, and he used them like a scalpel. And the saddest part? For those 6 years, I genuinely believed I was the smart one, the one who had healed, the one who had chosen wisely this time. But I had only chosen a better, quieter form of deception. I traded one kind of drama for another, more insidious kind. I go over the details again and again. The thermostat fight. Was that the planned exit? Or was Mark already in contact with Adam, ready to go? The fight over the AC was so trivial, so disposable. A perfect little distraction. It's the small, normal moments that hurt the most, because they were the ones that hit the biggest, most unbelievable lies. Did Adam plan the exact time? Did he watch the door, waiting for his chance to step into the role of the comforting brother-in-law? He was guiding me, keeping me calm, not as a brother, but as a future husband, removing any possibility that I might think for myself, that I might demand more of the authorities. He kept the search quiet. He kept the hope low. He managed my grief. He was the perfect producer for this terrible show, and I, the grieving wife, was the star. I see Mark now, years later, in my imagination. He's calm, successful, living a quiet life. He won. He outmaneuvered the man who outmaneuvered him. The irony of Adam being forced to live under Mark's name is the perfect, cold, poetic justice. He wanted to steal Mark's life. He got the old, ruined, indebted version of Mark's life, a life that came with a target on its back. Mark knew exactly what he was doing. He was brilliant and absolutely terrifying. I look at old photos sometimes. Mark's wedding picture, Adam's wedding picture, the exact same smile, the exact same eyes. The difference was never in the face. It was in the silence behind the eyes. Mark's eyes were loud, restless. Adam's were still, like a deep, dark pool hiding something heavy on the bottom. Now I realize they both had darkness. One was a sudden, violent storm. The other was a slow, creeping flood. I was drowned by both. What a thing to realize about your life, that the decade you spent rebuilding was actually another person's master plan, that your true love, your stability, your happy ending, it was all a weapon used in a twisted family contest. It changes you. It changes how you look at every kind word, every kind gesture. It teaches you that sometimes the one who stays is more dangerous than the one who leaves. And the hardest part, the part I try not to think about, I was truly deeply happy with Adam for 6 years. That happiness was real. The love, the stability, the sense of security, it was genuine, even if the reason for it was manufactured. Does a beautiful building crumble if its foundation is a lie? Yes, but it was still beautiful while it stood. And that is the absolute worst part, that I loved the liar, that I was happy in the trap, and that my first husband, the chaos, had to come back to save me from the quiet, perfect life I had built with his brother. I just hope that somewhere out there, Adam is stuck in a tiny apartment trying to apply for a job under Mark's name, and the past debts catch up with him. It's a terrible thought, but after 10 years of waiting and 6 years of lies, it's the only comfort I have left. It's just me now. No husband, no brother-in-law, no ghost. Just Claire, finally free of the twins. It's quiet, and I'm learning to like the silence. A real silence this time. One I chose.